Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will you ask the clerk to report House Committee Substitute 1?
Mr. Clerk, please report.
House Committee Substitute 1 to House Bill 544.
Gentleman from Todd.
Move for adoption.
Motion made for the adoption of House Committee Substitute 1. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. House Committee Substitute 1 is adopted. Gentleman from Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. House Bill 544, although it says an act relating to branch budget bills, has been called to a better purpose, and we will be looking at a title amendment later on that will talk about disaster relief, and that's what the bill by House Committee Substitute 1 is about. We've had a flooding event in eastern Kentucky. We have talked about it, and I'm not going to go into the details other than it did occur on or about February the 14th. It was another horrendous event, and there was a presidential declaration of a major disaster, a FEMA 4860 DRKY declaration. This bill proposes to create a safe 4860 fund that would operate much as we have before in West Kentucky in 2021 and East Kentucky in 2022 with very similar structures and purposes. As before, we would create this fund, and it would be administered by the Department of Military Affairs, Division of Emergency Management. It would receive essentially any and all funds that could be placed into it, including state appropriations, gifts, federal, private, otherwise. Those funds would carry forward, not lapse, and interest earned thereon would stay in the fund to build. We would make sure that either the Department of Military Affairs or the Division of Emergency Management would interfere with fundraising by private organizations and others to receive donations to help with additional flood relief. For someone to be an eligible recipient under this was much similar to what we've done before. City, counties, all types, nonprofit or public utility service providers, state agencies, and school districts would all be eligible for assistance. Make sure that the entity is in the affected area and that what they're requesting as far as assistance relates to that particular disaster. Eligible expenses, without going through the full laundry list, would include reconstruction of buildings, systems, facilities, infrastructures, schools or school-associated properties, reimbursement for initial outlays for debris removal and other things that are required as an immediate nature. Cover cost, replacement cost, repair cost, also deal with planning cost. Some of the things we would require, as we had before, retain documentation, adhere to the rules of the fund itself. Monies can also be used for strained fiscal liquidity. We've done this previously, especially for city, counties, and school districts, where we have flooding that affects tax revenues and general operations of local governments. As those revenues are affected, then we can assist with strained fiscal liquidity in the short run. If there is a recipient that receives assistance under this fund and they have applied for FEMA or some other kind of government reimbursement, that would come back in and replenish into the 4860 fund. Agency can issue and promulgate administrative regulations to make sure all of this is accomplished, and we have some reporting requirements as we've done before with the Office of State Budget Director as well as the Department of Education. That is really the structure of the bill, which is similar to 21 and 22. As far as funding, what we have is this. We have essentially $23 million in the emergency cap current fiscal year. We have about $48 million that's available through prior funds not utilized in West Kentucky in 21 and East Kentucky in 22. Those funds under this bill would be made available. The cap already is. We would give authority to the governor to access a portion or all under prior safe funds. That would total about $71 million in the current fiscal year that would be available, plus what has already been spent. Next year, fiscal year, July 1, 2025, another $50 million cap will become available that can be utilized in part or full. And I hope that this begins our conversation in these last few days as we receive further information from the executive branch sharing up estimates and what the expectations are, and as we work with our colleagues in the Senate to finalize a package best in this session, given the information that we have. There is an emergency clause on this bill, and I would move for final passage of House Bill 544 as amended by House Committee Substitute 1.